The air in the sterile, glass-walled boardroom of Vantage Corp was so thick with tension it felt like a physical weight pressing down on everyone's chest. 15 board members sat frozen, their eyes darting between the man standing at the head of the table, Marcus Thorne, the arrogant Silver Spoon CEO, and the man sitting quietly at the far end. That man was Ethan. He wore a suit that was 5 years old and frayed at the cuffs. His hands rested calmly on the mahogany table, clasped together. He didn't look like a threat. He looked like exactly what he was, the head of data logistics, a glorified fix-it guy who had been invisible for a decade. "You have 5 minutes to pack your box, Ethan," Marcus sneered, adjusting his silk tie. He projected a chart onto the screen behind him. It showed a loss of $3 million. "Embezzlement is a serious crime. I'm being generous by letting you walk out before the police arrive. You're fired, effective immediately." The board murmured. Disgust painted their faces as they looked at Ethan, the thief, the betrayal. Ethan didn't flinch. He didn't beg. He didn't scream. Slowly, deliberately, he reached into his jacket pocket. The sound of fabric rustling was the only noise in the room. He pulled out a small metallic flash drive and a single sealed envelope. He slid them across the polished wood. They stopped exactly in the center of the table. "I expected this, Marcus," Ethan said, his voice low but carrying a strange, terrifying steadiness. "That's why I didn't come alone today." Marcus laughed, a nervous barking sound. "What is this, a resignation letter?" "No," Ethan said, standing up. He looked tired, but his eyes were sharp, like shattered glass. "That envelope contains the server logs you thought you deleted 3 nights ago. And the drive? That's the audio recording of the conversation where you told me exactly how you planned to frame me." Marcus's face drained of color. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. "Play it," the chairman of the board whispered from the center seat, his eyes locked on Marcus. Ethan reached for the laptop connected to the projector. "With pleasure." Ethan's finger hovered over the enter key, but before he could press it, the boardroom doors slammed open with a violent crash. 3 months earlier, Life Advantage Corp had been a very different kind of hell for Ethan. He was the invisible man. He was the one who stayed until 9 p.m. to fix the servers when they crashed, missing his daughter's piano recital. He was the one who recovered the lost financial data that saved the Q3 report, only for Marcus to take the credit on stage while Ethan stood in the back holding a tray of coffees. "You're a good worker bee, Ethan," Marcus had said once, patting him on the shoulder with a heavy, condescending hand. "Every hive needs drones. Just keep your head down, and maybe next year we'll discuss a cost of living adjustment." "A raise?" Ethan had asked, hopeful. "My wife's medical bills are piling up, Marcus. I was promised a promotion 3 years ago." "We're all making sacrifices," Marcus had replied, climbing into his brand new Porsche while Ethan walked to the bus stop in the rain. Ethan took the abuse because he had to. He had a mortgage. He had a sick wife. He had no safety net. He was intelligent, brilliantly so, but his quiet nature made people assume he was weak. They mistook his silence for stupidity. But Ethan saw everything. As the head of data, he had administrative access to every email, every digital footprint, and every deleted file in the company. He saw the lavish dinners Marcus expensed as client meetings. He saw the unauthorized transfers to offshore accounts labeled consulting fees. He never spoke about it. He just watched. He archived. He backed up. The atmosphere in the office shifted when the quarterly audit was announced. Marcus became erratic. He started shouting at interns. He paced his office like a caged tiger. Then he started watching Ethan. It wasn't a friendly gaze. It was predatory. Marcus needed a fall guy. He needed someone with access to the system, someone quiet, someone nobody would believe, someone disposable. One Tuesday evening, Ethan found a file on his desk. It wasn't digital. It was a physical folder. Inside were bank transfer requests with Ethan's digital signature forged. His phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. "Come to my office, now. We need to talk about your future." Ethan entered the CEO's office. The panoramic view of the city lights usually looked beautiful, but tonight it looked like prison bars. Marcus sat behind his massive desk, a glass of scotch in his hand. He didn't offer Ethan a seat. "Sit," Marcus commanded anyway, gesturing to the low chair that forced Ethan to look up at him. Ethan sat. "You wanted to see me?" "I'm in a bind, Ethan," Marcus said, swirling his drink. "A bookkeeping error. $3 million. It looks bad. The board, they're gonna look for someone to blame." "And you want to fix it?" Ethan asked, playing dumb. Marcus smiled, a cold, reptile grin. "I want you to fix it. I've already set up the paper trail. It points to you, Ethan. The transfers, the authorizations, it's all under your login." Ethan felt his stomach drop, but his face remained a mask of calm. "You forged my credentials." "I borrowed them," Marcus corrected. "Here's the deal. You sign this confession, you admit to a gambling problem, you take the fall. I'll make sure the company doesn't press criminal charges. You get fired, yes, but I'll wire $50,000 to your wife's account to help with the bills." "And if I refuse?" Marcus leaned forward, his eyes turning hard. "Then I release the evidence to the FBI. You go to prison for 10 years. Your wife loses her insurance. Your house is foreclosed. Your daughter grows up with a felon for a father. Who are they going to believe, Ethan? The CEO or the IT guy who takes the bus?" It was the ultimate humiliation. Marcus wasn't just stealing money, he was stealing Ethan's life to cover his own sins. He was banking on Ethan being too scared to fight back. "You have 24 hours, Marcus said, dismissing him with a wave of his hand. "Don't be stupid. You're a nobody. Remember that." Ethan walked out of the office. His hands were shaking, not from fear, but from a cold, simmering rage. Ethan got to his desk. He didn't pack, he didn't cry. He opened his bottom drawer and pulled out a burner phone he had kept for emergencies. He dialed a number. "It's happening," he whispered. "Initiate the ghost protocol." The next 24 hours were a masterclass in psychological warfare. Ethan arrived at work the next morning to find his access card deactivated. Security, 2 large men he had known for years, blocked the entrance. They wouldn't look him in the eye. "Sorry, Ethan," mumbled the head guard. "Orders from the top. You're barred from the building pending investigation." HR sent an email to his personal account. Suspension. Notice, gross misconduct. Then the bank called. "Sir, your accounts have been frozen due to a flagging from federal authorities regarding suspicious activity." Marcus moved fast. He wasn't waiting for Ethan to decide. He was crushing him preemptively to force the confession. Ethan stood on the sidewalk, watching his colleagues whisper as they walked past him. He was isolated, cornered. His wife called, panic in her voice. "Ethan, the credit card was declined at the pharmacy. They're saying we have 0 funds. What is going on?" "I'll fix it," Ethan said, his voice steady. "Trust me." He went to a coffee shop across the street. He opened his laptop, not his work laptop, but a personal one with military-grade encryption. He tried to remotely access the company server. Access denied. Marcus had changed the admin keys. He had wiped Ethan's backdoors. Ethan sat back, watching the blinking cursor. Most men would have panicked. Most men would have run to Marcus and signed the confession just to get the bank accounts unfrozen. But Ethan wasn't most men. Marcus thought Ethan had cut his throat, but he had only cut the leash. Ethan reached into his bag and pulled out a hard drive labeled Legacy Backup. He hadn't just backed up the current system, he had backed up the system architecture itself. As he plugged in the drive, a shadow fell over his table. He looked up to see the company's CFO, a woman known for her icy demeanor, standing over him. She looked terrified. "Ethan, we need to talk, not here." They met in a park, away from cameras and microphones. Sarah, the CFO, looked like she hadn't slept in a week. "Marcus knows you didn't do it," she said, her voice trembling. "But he's forcing me to sign off on the audit. He says if I don't, he'll expose my past." Ethan listened, his face impassive. "Why are you telling me this, Sarah?"
Because you can't win, she pleaded. He has the best lawyers. He has the board in his pocket. Just take the deal, Ethan. Ethan reached into his jacket and pulled out a tablet. He tapped the screen a few times and turned it toward her. Sarah's eyes widened. What is this? This, Ethan said calmly, is the metadata from the original transfer requests. Marcus thinks he scrubbed the servers. He thinks deleting a file makes it go away. He doesn't understand that I built the server's architecture 5 years ago to retain a shadow copy of every keystroke for 90 days. It's a failsafe against ransomware. Sarah scrolled through the data. Her mouth fell open. You have his IP address. You have the timestamps. You even have the keystroke logs of him typing his password. I have more than that. Look at the routing numbers. Sarah squinted. These aren't offshore accounts. These are... She froze. Exactly, Ethan said. He didn't send the money to a bank. He sent it to a shell company registered to a generic LLC in Delaware. But look at the incorporation documents attached to that LLC. It's the chairman's signature? Sarah gasped. But that's a forgery, a bad one. Marcus isn't just stealing, Ethan revealed, his voice dropping to a whisper. He's framing the chairman's family trust to stage a hostile takeover. He wants to oust the board and take the company private. Sarah looked at Ethan with new eyes. This wasn't the IT guy who fixed printers. This was a man who understood the intricate, lethal machinery of corporate law and digital forensics better than anyone in the C-suite. You're not just a data analyst, are you? She asked. I used to work in forensic accounting before I took the quiet job. I wanted a simple life. Marcus just made it complicated. Sarah grabbed his arm. Ethan, if Marcus finds out you have this, he won't just fire you, he'll have you killed. You need to hide this. I'm not hiding it, Ethan said, closing the tablet. I'm going to broadcast it. The day of the board meeting, the day from the cold open, arrived. Ethan had gathered his evidence, but the universe had one more curveball. Late that night, while reviewing the shadow logs, he noticed an anomaly, a second stream of data. It wasn't just Marcus. There was an email chain buried deep in the archive, encrypted with a key that wasn't Marcus's. It belonged to someone else. Ethan decrypted it. As the text appeared on his screen, he felt a chill run down his spine. The emails weren't to a bank. They were to a private investigator. Subject, the scapegoat. Body, we need someone quiet, someone with access. Ethan is the perfect candidate. His wife is sick. He's desperate. Squeeze him. The sender wasn't Marcus. It was Marcus's father, the old chairman, the man Ethan thought was the victim. The twist hit him like a physical blow. Marcus wasn't a rogue operator. He was the executioner for his father's dirty work. The chairman was liquidating the company's assets to pay off massive gambling debts before the stock crashed, and they were using Marcus and Ethan to clean up the mess. Marcus was the face of the evil, but the chairman was the architect. If Ethan exposed Marcus, the chairman would just throw his son under the bus and walk away clean, claiming ignorance. The embezzlement was a family project. Ethan sat back in his chair. The plan he had, playing the recording of Marcus, wasn't enough anymore. If he only took down the son, the father would destroy Ethan later. He needed a bigger weapon. He looked at the clock. 3 a.m. The meeting was 9 a.m. He needed to get into the physical archives. The digital trail was good, but he needed the wet ink signature on the original incorporation papers that the chairman had tried to hide in the basement safe. Ethan grabbed his coat and the key to the server room, which also happened to open the maintenance shaft leading to the executive archive. He wasn't going home. He was breaking in.
The break-in was silent. Ethan knew the camera blind spots. He had installed them. He reached the executive archive in the basement. It was a dusty room filled with boxes of tax returns and old deeds. He found the safe behind a painting, just as the digital blueprints had suggested. He didn't have the combination, but he had the drill. For 20 minutes, the sound of the high-speed drill was deafening in the small room.
Sweat poured down his face. If security did a round, he was done. He wasn't just an embezzler then, he was a burglar. Click. The door swung open. Inside, there was no money, just a single red ledger and a stack of deeds. Ethan flipped through the ledger. It was a manual record of every illegal bribe the chairman had paid over 30 years. It was the Black Book. Suddenly, the lights in the basement flickered on. "I knew you'd come," a voice boomed. Ethan spun around. It wasn't security. It was Marcus, flanked by 2 private security contractors holding tasers. "You're predictable, Ethan," Marcus sneered. "We planted the leak about the Black Book in the server just to lure you here. Now, you're not just fired, you're caught trespassing, destroying property, and stealing corporate secrets." The guard stepped forward. "Give me the book," Marcus demanded, holding out his hand. "And maybe the police won't break your legs before they arrest you." Ethan clutched the ledger to his chest. He looked trapped. The exit was blocked. "You set me up," Ethan said, backing against the open safe. "We own the board, we own the police, and we own the narrative," Marcus laughed. "You are just a thief caught in the act." One of the guards lunged. Ethan threw a heavy box of files at him, knocking him off balance, and sprinted, not toward the door, but toward the fire alarm. He pulled the lever. The sprinklers exploded. Water rained down, soaking the ledger, soaking Marcus, creating chaos. In the confusion, Ethan slipped into the ventilation shaft. He was wet, bruised, and hunted, but he still had the book. Back to the present, the boardroom. The doors slammed open. It wasn't security, it was the police, but they weren't coming for Ethan. They were led by a severe-looking woman in a trench coat. Detective Miller, Financial Crimes Division. Marcus, who had been terrified by Ethan's threat to play the audio, suddenly looked relieved. "Officer, thank God. That man," he pointed a shaking finger at Ethan, "is a thief. He broke into the building last night. He has stolen company property." The chairman stood up, regaining his composure. "Arrest him immediately. This is a corporate hostage situation." Ethan didn't move. He stood by the projector, his hand still on the laptop. "Detective," Ethan said calmly, "before you arrest me, you might want to look at the screen." Ethan pressed enter. The audio didn't play. Instead, a video feed popped up. It was grainy, black and white footage. It was CCTV footage from the basement, dated last night. It showed Marcus and his guards cornering Ethan. It showed Marcus admitting to planting the leak. It showed Marcus saying, "We own the police." The room gasped. "You see," Ethan said, addressing the board, "Marcus disabled the security cameras, but he forgot that the server room has an independent battery backup webcam for thermal monitoring. It records audio and video." Marcus looked like he was going to vomit. "But that's not all," Ethan continued. He reached into his wet jacket and pulled out the red ledger he had saved from the sprinklers. It was damaged, but legible. "This is the chairman's personal accounting. It proves that the $3 million wasn't stolen. It was used to bribe the zoning commissioner for the new headquarters project." The chairman froze. The color drained from his face. Detective Miller stepped forward. "Marcus Thorne, Jonathan Thorne, I have a warrant for the seizure of all physical and digital assets." "This is fake," Marcus screamed. "He doctored the video." "We'll let the forensics lab decide that," the detective said, pulling out handcuffs. The chairman slumped into his chair, clutching his chest. But as the police moved to cuff Marcus, the young CEO pulled a small remote from his pocket. "If I go down, the company burns." He thumbed a button.
A siren began to wail. Not a police siren, a server alarm. "I just initiated a remote wipe," Marcus screamed, his eyes wild. "A magnetic pulse in the server room. It's frying the drives right now. All the evidence, all the backups, all the client data, gone. You have nothing on me without that data." The board members shrieked. The destruction of that data would bankrupt the company instantly. Ethan didn't panic. He actually smiled. A small, sad smile. "Marcus," Ethan said softly, "you really didn't pay attention to what I did here, did you?"
It's gone, Marcus laughed maniacally. You lose. The servers in this building are decoys, Ethan said. The room went dead silent again. What? Marcus whispered. 3 years ago, when you denied my budget request for better security, Ethan explained, I moved the core database to a cloud server. I paid for it out of my own pocket. It cost me $200 a month. The physical servers in the basement? They hold nothing but cached copies of cafeteria menus and old holiday photos. Ethan tapped a key on his laptop. The screen changed to show a live status bar. System integrity, 100%. Cloud backup, active. The company data is safe, and the evidence against you is replicated in servers in 3 different countries. You can't wipe it, you can't burn it. It's everywhere. The chairman looked at Ethan with a mix of hatred and begrudging awe. The man they had treated as a nobody, the man they refused to give a raise to, had been the only one holding the entire company together with his own money and ingenuity. Marcus dropped the remote. It clattered uselessly on the floor. Who are you? Marcus whispered. I'm the guy who fixes things, Ethan said. As Marcus was dragged away in cuffs, weeping, the chairman looked at Ethan. You saved the company, the old man rasped. You own us. What do you want? A raise? My seat? Ethan picked up his frayed briefcase. I want something else. 6 months later, the skyscraper that once housed Vantage Corp was under new management. The stock had stabilized after the scandal, largely because the new interim leadership had been completely transparent with the investigation. Marcus Thorne was serving the first year of a 15-year sentence for fraud and embezzlement. His assets had been seized, he was bankrupt, his reputation destroyed. The chairman had avoided prison due to failing health, but he had been stripped of his voting rights and forced into a humiliating retirement. His legacy was in tatters. And Ethan? Ethan walked into the building, but not through the employee entrance. He walked through the front doors. He wasn't the CEO. He had turned down the job. I don't want the headache, he had told the board. Instead, he walked into the conference room as an external consultant. He wore a new suit, tailored, sharp. He placed an invoice on the table. The new CEO, a woman who respected him, smiled. Your fee is steep, Ethan. My fee is for the peace of mind that your data is safe, and for the shadow protocol I installed. He had started his own cybersecurity firm. Vantage Corp was his first client. He made more in 1 month of consulting than he had made in 10 years as an employee. He had paid off his house. His wife was getting the best treatment available. He packed up his things. As he walked out of the glass boardroom, he glanced at the empty chair where Marcus used to sit. He remembered the taunt, "You're a nobody." Ethan adjusted his tie and walked out into the sunlight. He wasn't a nobody. He was the man who held the keys. Moral: be careful who you step on to get to the top. The ground is often held together by the quiet people you underestimated. Karma quote: they thought I was silent because I had nothing to say. I was silent because I was building the case.